Is Facebook for teens?
Online psychotherapy goes bonkers.
Is Facebook for businesses?
Preschoolers outsmart college students.
Is Facebook messing with your mind? All that, plus our recommendations coming up next.
Welcome to Our Breakfast Club, where new perspectives are just around the corner. Grab your cup of coffee, click that subscribe button over at ourbreakfast.club, and join us for some morning laughter, news, tech tips, and witty insights. Enjoy the show, guys. Hi, I'm Chandra Achberger.
Oh, I was expecting music.
Oh,
Not-
it played.
not
It played. You
Okay,
just didn't.
I
You
can't
just
hear
didn't.
it.
Yeah. So when we did that, so this is
And I
fine.
can't see your video, so you can't give me like a sign or anything.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Well, so we'll know. I mean, we're
Okay.
just recording this, so but even regardless, even if we were live right now, then that would be fine. But
Yep.
yeah, you can't hear that, and maybe I'll be the cue to say, "Welcome to episode" or whatever, or "Welcome to our Breakfast Club," and then you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So, um,
Okay. So I'll say,
welcome, our usual welcome.
yeah. Hey, welcome everybody to back to our Breakfast Club. This is episode number 14. I am your host, Kurt Achberger,
And I'm Chandra Achberger.
and we're going to take
all
you
right,
through the
so-
stories
so-
today and give you some recommendations. Chandra, why don't you take it away with the first story?
Hey there. So, how your bee-friendly garden may actually be killing bees. It's the article I found. It was just put out, so it's not older. I was hoping that it was actually going to be an older one when I saw the headline. But essentially, all the plants that come from Home Depot and Walmart and Lowe's, they said they tested. They tested 71 bee-friendly plants from 18 different Lowe's, Walmarts, and Home Depots across the nation, and across the United States and Canada, so across most of North America. And they tested them, and half the plants the researchers measured had can you say it?
Neonicotinoid?
Neonicotinoid, actually. Neonicotinoid
Of course.
residues in the flowers from levels anywhere between 2 and 748 parts per billion, which essentially kills bees. It makes them disoriented, and it kills honeybees. And it's part of a huge problem that, if you haven't heard, we are facing some serious issues, and have been for years. Actually, I remember being very, very worried about this when we first heard about this when we lived in Alaska in 2006, and being worried that we would have no more bees. I believe Einstein said if we were to kill off all the honeybees, we could last 4 years of crops. And while that's not true totally, we would just have a very, very bland diet, like rice and wine grapes would be okay. So I'd be all right with that. But other than that, I mean, almost every fruit has the bees. So I just wanted to put out there, and I'll definitely post the article, that even though we're essentially trying to do good as far as planting bee-friendly plants, just make sure they're not from a place that uses Roundup. So essentially, these 3 places are the bigger box stores. Buying your plants from is not a good idea if you care about the bees. So Lowe's, Walmart, and Home Depot. We probably never get sponsorship from them, even though I love Home Depot. But or just maybe someone could start a movement having them stop spray their bugs, and have their plants not be modified as well, like the Monsanto seeds that are totally illegal in Europe, where we saw this documentary where the bees just become very, very disoriented and can't get back to their hives or end up killing off their own hives. So it's just a very sad story on how people are tending to do good. It's not working out, and just to be aware of it.
Yeah, and we should let everyone know we have bees, right?
Hmm.
We have actually quite a lot of bees. We have a beehive that's now 3 frames high. So we've got probably about 90,000 bees in our little hive there, and so we've learned quite a bit about beekeeping, and then of course when you're keeping bees, how to not kill them or not things that are detrimental
Yeah.
to them. And yeah, this has been a story that's gotten worldwide exposure, if to some degree. I've seen the articles out there. It kind of wanes and grows. They don't, for a long time, they don't, technology or whatever, like, yeah, you can go on Amazon and get any book in the world, but if you go into a little corner bookstore, you're going to be able to talk to the person there, and kind of get recommendations and things like that. And I think even more so for plants, because really you could buy a book and either never read it or read it once and sit it on a shelf. But at the local growers, they can tell you what's going to grow well here. Like, really,
Yeah,
one of
and
ours is right down
importantly,
the
what's
street, right?
native. I mean, that it is important to keep native plants in where they belong as well. I know that's a big problem here as far as keeping there are only certain flowers that birds feed on, and they're going away because there are a lot less prairies, and keeping stuff native, even though they're weeds. The bees like the weeds, so
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when we go there and you can see where they have all the plants and flowers out, in their little yard, and you can see what the bees are attracted
yeah,
to and what they're on. And like, okay, we'll buy 2 of those because that's where the bees are. And
yeah.
so it just, yeah, Home Depot, like you said, we certainly spend our fair share at Home Depot for projects and things we like to build. Just just not the plants, unfortunately, right?
Well, we did for a long time, right?
Yeah,
Just
we did.
not even
They all
knowing. I mean,
died.
we got
Not only are they bad for the bees, and we couldn't keep them alive
well,
either.
so
So
now we start stuff from seed, right?
yep,
Trying
yep,
that whole route, but it's people with good intentions and want to be greener and want to have, and I love the idea of butterfly gardens as well, because we're having issues with the monarch butterflies, and especially if you have kids, yeah, just honestly, a lot of times it is just the weeds, or just find your local place and in the spring, in the fall and spring, just scatter some wildflower seeds all around, and in a couple of months you'll have. I can't even imagine in New York how awesome that would be, because the way the weather is, how it would rain, and all of a sudden you just have a patch of a total butterfly garden or bee garden or whatever. So just wanted people to be aware. And at the end of this article, they say we need consumers to have a dialogue with the local retailers. If there's a demand expressed in the marketplace, that's how changes will be made. And that's basically it, right? I mean, uh, like Kurt said, I would love to shop at Home Depot, and it would be great if they were like, okay, no more, we're not selling Roundup anymore, or any of those agents that do that. We're not spraying them on our own plants, and then getting, even if it's just a local section where they have that, that would be awesome for people to start talking to their local suppliers, right?
yeah, it'd be interesting. Did they mention Costco at all in the article? I know we've gotten a couple of like full on trees, right, fruit trees and things, and Costco always has plants. I wonder, but I
They
also know that
do.
Costco tries to do a lot of things local for their like individual stores.
Yeah, they do things pretty. Yeah, and Costco is just kind of based that way. And I don't know, they do not mention Costco in the article, but I would like to check that out and see what growers Costco uses
Yeah.
to get their trees and plants and flowers. And they do. From spring into early summer, they have plants. And our Costco here in Austin has a lot, and getting more
Yep.
as soon as what's it called? uh, Whole Foods. As soon as Whole Foods opened next door, they tended to get more
That's true.
plants, and also more, I mean, definitely more organic options, which has been awesome, because I can get organic stuff in bulk now from Costco. So It always comes back to Costco. No, I'm going to say no. The plants are okay from Costco, but I don't know. I'll research it and see what I find and put it in on the post for this episode.
Yep. Forget Home Depot. We're still gunning for the Costco sponsorship. So
Yeah, that's true.
that's all we need, right? One stop shop. All right. So my first story is now, in case you couldn't grasp it from the headlines there, I'm going with an all Facebook theme today, at least for my stories, and because as I've scanned through the stories that are coming in my feeds, I just saw quite a few that were Facebook related, and I thought, oh, I'll just bundle them all up and talk about them today. So the first one is from a study that finds that teens are using Facebook more, which is counter to, well, even in their investor calls, since Facebook has become public, they've stated, much to their chagrin, that the teen demographic Facebook use has been going down in the past, but now Forrester Research surveyed 4,517 teens between the ages of 12 and 17, which right there I thought was interesting. And somebody in the comments mentioned, you have to be 13 or older to have a Facebook account. So how and why they surveyed 12-year-olds is interesting. But anyway, and also they don't say who sponsored the research, which that's just a general to me when I read a lot of stories about surveys. It should say something like, a so-and-so sponsored research poll by Forrester, because Forrester doesn't do research just cause, right? Generally. So we don't know who did this. But this survey that was just done showed that there was actually an uptick or an increase in Facebook usage in that 12 to 17 demographic. They say smartphone adoption is one of the biggest reasons for the increased usage, not necessarily the adoration of the platform. The article in general goes on to pretty much slam Facebook, so I don't know if there's a little bit of link baiting or something here with the headline, but it is interesting. So they've said before that, teenagers, and it gets to the crux of the story, right? Oh, I love this. So one thing is Facebook introduced this new app, this app called Slingshot, which is an app that mimics Snapchat. So for the uninitiated, Snapchat is the one where you send a picture and it disappears after, I believe it's 6 seconds or some amount of time. So, you have to look at it and then it goes away. And so they created Slingshot, Facebook did, which sort of mimics that. Oh, so Slingshot's deal is you have to share something to see what they shared. So I could send Chandra, I could send you a photo, and you would have to send me a photo first to see my photo. Okay, I don't know, but anyway, they did that. They created that, and apparently that's because teens like Snapchat, that maybe they're using Slingshot, and that's a very mobile centric app. So maybe that's why. Slingshot has fallen behind, though, the app Yo. I don't think we ever talked about Yo. It's a fairly new thing, but I just love, when we have an idiocracy themed day, I'll talk about Yo. So if you don't know,
that would be awesome. Okay, stay tuned. Thursday is going to be Idiocracy.
Unfortunately, collecting stories for Idiocracy Tuesday will not be difficult. Anyway, Yo, if you don't know, is an app that sends the message Yo to a friend. Yo released on April Fool's Day, of course it did, and is currently ranked 19th on the top charts list in the App Store. Slingshot is not even on the chart. So the 19th most popular app in the world is an app that sends Yo to your friends.
I love it. Sorry, call me Idiocracy.
Apparently a lot of people love it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, and so this is true because this is a story. This is a conversation that we've had, you and I, Chandra, offline about Facebook. So full disclosure, we own stock in Facebook. A chunk. But in talking about it, I mean, one of the reasons why I purchased those shares was because everyone says, "Oh, well, teens aren't using Facebook.
You weren't even on Facebook at the time, right?" And you asked me because I get chapped anytime anybody writes how. Yeah, I mean, you didn't ask me before. I mean, we talked about it, right? And I get chapped anytime anything like this comes up because it's just the media catering to the young, which is, not looking at the full picture. Go.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
so they're saying, oh, like that's a drawback on Facebook is that teens aren't using it, and why aren't teens using it? Because that's where all the adults are. Well,
Same
from a
reason why they
financial,
don't spend Saturday night at home, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, and so from a financial perspective, if you're talking about owning stock in a company, you know that's where you want to buy the social. You want the social network where all the adults are, right? Who has the money? Who has discretionary income to spend, right? Who are the decision makers? I mean, it's adults. So and even people who aren't big into Facebook generally I think get sucked into it because like if you're a young couple, let's say, and even let's look at like people like the generation sort of after us, maybe in the early 20 somethings who have gotten married and had a kid. And so if you're like 21, 22, you probably fall into that group of, oh, like Facebook is lame, right? But guess what? If you want to share pictures of your kid or your spouse or whatever, your
yeah.
parents and probably grandparents, if you're in the
Well,
20
that's
somethings, are on
yes.
Facebook.
Yes. And that's
That's
that's another huge thing that drives me nuts is everyone's like, "Oh, MySpace went away." And I'm just like, "Was your grandmother on MySpace?" No. Your grandmother and your parents were never on MySpace, right? I mean, there was a group of young people when we were younger at the time, whereas this first social media is it's like you're and there are the other ones that parents and grandparents go to, and I'm talking about even our parents and grand I mean, I'm 40, right? So it's it, yeah, the social structure of it is original. There was nothing else and is nothing else after that. It's so reaches out to so many multi-generational the older people, right? And you can share, and then the younger people. I mean, I see my little sister who's 8 years younger than I am, who was never really into Facebook, and neither were her friends, but now she's on it a lot more because her friends are all having babies, and
yeah.
it's the easiest way to share, and people's parents and grandparents are on there. I mean, I don't know about you all out there, and I would love to hear because this is something I want to get better at actually printing pictures and sending them to my parents and my grandmother, but I don't do it, right? Like I tag them in a picture and I get on with my busy life. And I mean, I know I'm sorry, mom. I'm so sorry. But that's life. I mean, when you're dealing with everything, right? We all have busy lives. So stop going to the teenagers and making them be the end all for what's going to be. I mean, yes, for what's hot right now. I love to hear about apps called Yo, but they're not Facebook, right? They don't have a billion. How many users does Facebook have now?
1.15 billion
Yeah, exactly.
monthly users. So that's not like just people
More than
that signed up
McDonald's.
and never used it.
More than served at McDonald's.
Yeah, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that my father, who is on Facebook, will never be on Yo. Out on a limb.
Coming crazy.
All right, so that's enough about teens and Facebook. Chandra, what's your next story?
It's funny that you're on a Facebook theme, and the reason I chose my next story, which is online psychotherapy gains fans and raises privacy concern, which that is the crux. But what drew me to this was I used to say that Facebook saved my life because I was able to, for a long time while life was very, very hectic and in the grieving of my brother, and life was hectic at home where we were, caring for ages 100 to 103, I had a release of being, I mean, I worked from home. Basically, I ran our home staff and everything, but it still was not, I still kind of was like a stay-at-home mom, right? I didn't have this outlet. I couldn't hang out with friends. I was very far removed, and even though I made friends in Squim, it was very rare that I could go out until I forced myself to start going to book clubs like once a month. But um, the therapy of writing on Facebook and just letting stuff out, right?
Like
I
a
mean, like
journal, right?
it
Like a diary.
totally, it's a total journal, and I've never been able to journal. I've mentioned before I have learning differences, and also just sticking to something where I'm just writing in a book every day. It's just never stuck with me. But Facebook is basically my kids' baby's book, right? Like they are like, I can go back and I can say, oh, 2009, what was I doing this month? And I can see a picture of Atlas, right? Or Atlas and Abby and be like, oh my goodness. So that and a combination of YouTube with like home videos. However, just being able to write what you feel, and people can take it and people can leave it, right? Sometimes there were times where everyone's just like, you're posting too much, and I'm like, well, just ignore it, right? If you don't like something in your stream, you can ignore
Scroll
it,
past it,
right?
yeah.
Like it's so silly to me when people are just like, oh, I have to block that person, they talked about bacon too much, and you're just like, what? Just ignore it. Like, that doesn't make them a bad person, and it's bacon, right?
So just replace bacon with Hitler, and I don't know if that's
Yeah,
anything.
then you have problems. But
Oh, okay. So there's limits. Okay.
well, and well, it's also good. I have plenty of friends who do not have the same political views as I do and put stuff out there, and I'm just like, it makes you see, right? But as far
It
as
does.
therapy, and you see all sides. So I mean, I think it's made me a more compassionate person to have these opening up dialogue, which is something that is definitely needed, probably all around the world, but here in the United States, where we've closed down these dialogues, as far as people don't have the neighbors that they used to in most places, right? Where you don't have these little,
Or at least their relationships with them, right?
right? Yeah, you don't have these interactions with people on that level, or really, that went away for a long time. And I think Facebook, on a fundamental level, has brought back the small town, right? It brought back. I have friends that I forgot about, literally people that I forgot about from junior high school, that I see what they're up to every day, and I love that. I love to see, and it's good for my. I like the people that I like on Facebook and that follow me, and they're my real friends, and that's why I only have like a couple. I have a couple hundred, but it is really like a true reflection of my lifetime of friends. They're people that I've actually met and hang out with, and when I need to get something off my chest, or something is absolutely beautiful, or I'm in a mourning state, which last week I had a rough week with that, and I put it out there, and that support system is awesome. And it does not surprise me that psychotherapy has moved online, and there's a young, the article is this, she's a 24-year-old entrepreneur, and she found it difficult to make time to take time off of work to go to therapy. And she says she can just Skype her therapist. It's like $45 for a half hour. She feels like she knows the person. She's like on a call, like she would be on a call with one of her buddies on a Skype, which we're on right now. We're trying something new, but it's
Yeah, I mean, what did I do
awesome.
What did I do yesterday? Right, yesterday evening. Um,
Yeah.
from a game I play on Facebook, we got sort of a private group, a group on Facebook together of a bunch of us who play, and then out of that came a Skype call yesterday evening with like 13 people from around the world. We had Australia to Iceland and everywhere in between, and then all of the U.S. and just apropos of nothing, just hanging out. Yeah, we talked about the game a little bit. We talked about where people were from. We talked about Iceland. We talked about Australia. We talked about the U.S. and just hung out, literally. And that all came out. And it's this group of it's become a support group that started because of the a game, but really is. People post everything. Yeah, I mean, you see, because when you friend somebody because of maybe you play a game with them or something, then in your main news feed you see everything that they post, right? Should you so choose, so you can see what's going on with these other people, and especially the exposure to outside the U.S., which I think is so vitally important, and I really hope that
Yeah. A world view, right? Like you
right.
get a true world view of people doing regular things that they enjoy to do.
Yeah,
Right?
and how I mean, I sincerely hope that when our kids get a little bit older, Abby will be first and can be on well, if she's not on Facebook, then there better be something like it or better, right?
Hmm.
Right now, I don't know what that is, and it's not Yo, and it's not
Even though
WeChat,
I'm signing up
it's
for
not
Yo.
Snapchat, and it's not
Yeah.
MySpace. It's not, maybe it's Google Plus. You can make an argument out there, but that she can get on Facebook. Probably to play game. Well, for Atlas, it would definitely be to play games, but she plays a lot of the little online games too, that are and to build up friends that at 10 or 12 or whatever, 13, I guess, and you can actually have an account, um, to just make these connections instantly worldwide. Basically pen pals around the world. Just and it's just gonna be completely natural. She's gonna have no idea that's
This
weird, right? It's
wasn't the
gonna
way
be
it was.
completely normal to be talking, have four chat windows open simultaneously with Iceland, Australia, the UK, Africa, right? Yeah, that's just how you're gonna live, right? And I think all of us are gonna be better people for it.
Yeah. And it's a cool little article. It's not very long, and it just I wonder how you feel about it. People people worry about the privacy of anything online, right? As far as things going, or knowing. I think in this article, in and of itself, they're worried more so about the guidelines for the actual therapists, right? And having somebody in multiple states, because there are different regulations in
Oh,
different
please, yeah.
states and all of
That's
that
yeah,
stuff.
okay. That's
And
fine. And yeah, I mean, of course, you should, if you have the means or whatever, seek out a professional therapist. But I don't know. A lot of times it's just being able to talk to someone
that's
who's
it.
willing to listen. And
That's it.
okay,
I
I
mean,
mean,
a
of
large
course,
part.
you should go to if you
Yeah.
can. But you know what? If you can't, or if there are going to be
No, if it's
regulations
something
about
that's
it,
better, if it's something that's better for you. I mean, different people. I can't. I wouldn't. I don't think I would ever be able to sit in a room with a person and do therapy that way. Um, but I am a total. I love being the center of attention, and I've helped a lot of people by just stating that I'm in pain, right? And then and people reach out. I'm unfortunately part of this very, very large group of people that anytime I post something about Raphael's book, or Raphael, the children's book about him, I learn about more and more friends that have lost siblings, and it's just like, oh gosh, I'm part of this club, and it's just like, that's fine for me online. I think our idea about privacy, uh, we just need to really once and for all be like, okay, this is what it is. This is the world we live in, and we got to take the good with the bad. And this old idea about privacy is just, it's dead. So get over it and move on. And if you want to go live in your tiny house out in the hill without any, I mean, that's fine too if you want to be totally secluded. But you can't have your cake and eat it too, in the sense of you want the benefits of being online, having free things like Facebook and all the things that Google provides. And I mean, they're not Facebook, but like all these great tools that we have these days, and then say, oh, but I don't want any ads, and I want total
privacy.
anonymity,
Yeah.
and you're just like, no, it doesn't work that way. You can't live in a small town with anonymity. Like, it just doesn't work that way. So
Okay, so let's talk about my next story, which again is right
Facebook.
along the Facebook train. We've talked about teens using Facebook and how we use Facebook. What about at work? So a place where I think most people, not only are most companies probably not companies using Facebook, but they're probably actively blocking you from using Facebook. On that Skype call I referenced earlier, there were a number of people who said, "Oh, like I can't play the game," which is you play on Facebook. I can't play the game when I'm at work because my company blocks Facebook. Which that sentence alone, right? I'm not judging one way or the other, right?
Yeah.
You can see how companies may not want, depending on what you're doing, and also it's not a very it's a casual game. It's not something it's not a
Cerebrally,
yeah,
it's
it's not an
probably
online.
better,
It's not
right?
Call of Duty or an online shooter or
Keeps you at your
zombies
desk
or
longer.
anything. Yeah, think about like Candy Crush or something equivalent to that, right? Um, but Facebook, on the other hand, they, especially now that they're public and they've got to bring home the bacon, if you were for stockholders, is looking at, and this is a rumor, but it seems like it's a pretty substantiated rumor. FB at work is the title of it. So Facebook at work. Now, there's a couple interesting quotes here. Facebook itself, not I guess unsurprisingly, uses Facebook at their in their offices, right?
Hope so.
So all Facebook employees, they use a combination of private groups and messaging,
Mhm.
and I guess they've actually hooked it into their HR database. So when your like title changes, you get added and removed from a whole bunch of Facebook groups automatically. Right? It's like, oh, you moved over to this team.
It's
You
brilliant.
boom, boom, boom. You're in all these you're in all these
Awesome.
private groups, and then we'll take you out of these groups, and now you can. And these people are added to your contacts and whatever, and so they use Facebook at work, and they're trying to get other now. So I mean, this is the thing, right? And so I work for a publicly traded, corporation, and they don't I don't think I don't I choose I guess I choose not to use Facebook at work. I know they track all of our browsing history, so I wouldn't be getting away with it, or they would know if I use Facebook. I've been on. I guess I take that back. I've been on Facebook a couple times when I've been traveling, especially. So if I have to go up to Anchorage and the family's down here in Austin, I'll go on Facebook because so I know one place I always know I can find Chandra, or if I want to, the kids and stuff. So. Uh, so they but they certainly aren't using it internally for any sort of actual getting work done. Like I don't have a private group for my team or anything, but I could certainly see how we could. I know so that's the thing, and it's funny they have another quote like, what company is it? Hearsay Social. So they said. The CEO of Hearsay Social says, as a social media company ourselves, we know 100% of our employees are on Facebook, right? And my company knows, like I know at least, if my company doesn't, that like everybody I deal with on a daily basis from a work perspective, they're all on Facebook. I know
Yeah,
that
but I
they
mean,
know that I'm
there's
on
different
Facebook.
levels of engagement, right?
Yeah. So back to his quote. Rather than reinvent the wheel or ask employees to log into yet another system, we decided to create a private, unlisted Facebook group to house many of our real-time company chats and conversations. So, I mean, that kind of sums up the whole article, right? Like, every company, every big company out there should know that all of their employees are on Facebook, right? We talked about
Yeah,
they're
on
the
their
adults, and
phone.
where are the adults at? They're on Facebook. So they're choosing not to utilize this, and in fact, many of them are choosing like, oh, we're going to use, you know,
Yeah,
some stupid, there's all these other companies out there that sell this. This is the big
in
thing. All
in-house
the
software, right? Like this is
yeah,
in-house. We're gonna totally
Salesforce and things like that.
synergize our own company, like use all these buzzwords that it's
Leverage
just going to be, yeah.
paradigms.
And you're just like, use what you have from some of the smartest people. And I would trust a Facebook, and I'd love Facebook, but I would trust a Facebook business app a million times more than anything else because that's what they know, right? Like they're
Yep.
not, and they're not a lot of times I get annoyed at the algorithms because I'm just like, why are antisocial people in charge of a social network on a social level? However, within like groups and that what do you call it, paradigm of a company and that structure, I think that would be fantastic. Right? I mean, I think it would just flow flawlessly for most companies and instead of these knee-jerk reactions, which I've stated before, are insane the way we've run our country for a long time, and I think it just the times are changing. Use
Yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah, and it's surprising. I'm surprised, frankly, that there isn't a headline saying Google is trying, because like Google Plus, which we're both on. I guess everybody's technically on if you have a Gmail account. Um, is totally set up to do this, right? Because boom, you just create
Hmm.
a circle called work, and whenever you want to share something, you just share it to that circle, or you could have a conversation or a hangout. I mean, I'm in meetings almost every day, or at least once a week. I have a call where we're either screen sharing or just multiple people together, and it's always, and we're a telecommunications company, right? It is always a hassle. Oh,
Yeah.
somebody didn't get the pin. Oh no, wait, this I can't do this, and I can't see your screen. Can you see my screen? Blah 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 blah. Like Google Hangouts knows they know how to do this, right? And that nobody's suggesting that we, God forbid,
No,
use.
because people are afraid of the privacy factor.
Yeah.
However, Google has appealed for a long time, and a lot of people just don't know this, is the Google Apps, which is completely within a company's business structure, where you just put your domain in there, and then everything is right there, and it's kind of hard to navigate.
Oh,
And
somebody didn't get the
they've tried
pin.
to
Oh no,
appeal to
this I
enterprise
can't
as
do
well
this, and
as
I can't
to
see your screen.
schools,
Can you see my
as
screen?
far as
Blah blah
the
blah.
EDUs,
Like Google
everywhere
Hangouts
down from
knows
elementary all the way
they
up
know how to
to
do this,
colleges,
right? And
where
that
you
nobody's
where you can
suggesting
build
that
these
we,
elaborate
God forbid, use.
group systems,
are afraid
and
of the privacy factor.
however,
Yeah.
still their free stuff, their other things a long time, and a lot of people just don't know this is the Google Apps, which is more completely within the company's business and structure, where you just put your domain in there, and then everything has the Skype connection is right there, and it's kind of hard to navigate.
Oh,
and
somebody
it's
didn't get the
tries
pin.
to have
Oh
a
no,
Yahoo
yeah, this
enterprise
I can't
as
do
well
this.
as
I can't see your screen. Can
where
you
it's
see
an
my
option
screen?
to
Blah
people
blah blah.
use
Like
not
Google
right there,
Hangouts
and
knows
elementary all the way up.
they know how to do
They're on
this,
the
right?
road
And that
to
nobody's
the right,
suggesting
build
that
these
we,
elaborate,
God forbid,
both
use.
Google
Group systems are
and
afraid of the privacy factor.
I
However,
think
still,
Facebook is just more user friendly as
free
far
stuff,
as their setting
other
things up, and
things
a long
are
time, a lot of people just don't know this is Google Apps, which is more businesses
in the
that
company's
what they're
business
trying to do,
where you just
I
put
think
your
there's a
domain
breakdown
in
there,
there,
and then
Facebook
powers that
has
be and
Skype
other
connection
is right
companies,
there,
and
and
it's kind of hard to
Oh,
navigate.
somebody didn't get the pin. Oh no,
There is
this
a little bit
I
of that
can't
with
do
Google,
this.
but Google
I can't
is
see your screen. Can
where
you
it's
see
an
my
option
screen? Blah
tech
blah blah.
savvy,
Like
not
Google
right there,
Hangouts
instead of
knows
elementary and all
they
that.
know how to do
They're on
this,
the
right?
road
And that
to
nobody's
the right,
suggesting
sold,
that
right?
we.
You get
Okay.
sold on
Yep.
the apps,
Yep. Let's move on to your last story because I want to make sure there's time to cover my last story.
As far as so my last story is preschoolers outsmart college students in figuring out gadgets. And this is a
I could have told you. Did they study for this? I could have taken that money and gotten
Yeah,
that.
this is really cool. And yes, I would have guessed this as well. But
Somebody didn't get the pin.
what they
Oh,
did
no,
was
there is
um,
I can't do this.
they,
I can't see your
so
screen. Can you see my
psychologists
screen?
wanted to
Like
use
Google Hangouts.
and this article is on
They know how to do this, right? And nobody's
I wonder why children
Okay.
can so easily figure out
Let's
how
move on to your last story
work
because I want to
the
make sure
TV
there's time to
remote
cover
or
my
why they
last story.
totally get apps on the smartphone faster than you.
So,
It turns
my
out that
last story
young
is
children may be more open-minded than adults when it comes to solving problems.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I could have told you.
So
Did they study for this? I could have taken that
They
money and gotten
recruited over
that.
100 preschoolers, 4 and 5-year-old boys and girls, and brought them into a lab. The kids had to figure out how to turn on the music box that could be activated by places and play shapes in this artificially or in a combination on top of the box. After one of showed
Okay.
a whole series of different
Let's move on to your last story because I want to make sure there's time to cover my last story.
If they could make the machine turn on. They were trying to see if they could figure out cause and effect, at such a
Maybe.
young age.
I could have told
And
you.
the scientists
Did they
also
study
tested
for this? I could have
170
taken that
college
money and
students.
gotten that.
What we discovered to our surprise was not only were the 4-year-olds amazingly good at doing this, they were actually better than at it than the grown-ups. And they say, they go on to say, little kids basically don't come in with these automatic
Let's move on to your last
assumptions,
story
right?
because I want to make sure there's time to cover my
They're
last
better
story.
at problem solving in general because they're trying to figure it out they're more flexible. They have more flexibility fluid thinking. And the other thing that they found with this, and they chose college students because they're young minds, right? So they thought that this would be a closer age relation because college students aren't that old. They're not, 40 and stuck in their ways, right?
Mhm.
They didn't take the grandparents and little kids because they know, or, or
Now that would end. Yeah.
older parents, whatever, that they just keep on, keep on getting these affirmations. So this must be the way it is. So they say that the flexibility and fluid thinking disappears fast, may disappear earlier than they had thought, as far as in young adults, rather than taking a long time. So it's just a very cool article.
Yeah, and this reminds me of like athletes. So there's been in the past several years, there's been a number of like NFL athletes who started as like basketball players, or some other sport. But I think the most notable ones I remember are basketball players like Antonio Gates, the tight end. And they're really good, and they never played like a lick of football because that's why I saw an interview and some coach was saying like basically they're a blank slate, right? They have no
No bad
bad
habits.
behaviors. They haven't been playing football since they were 4 and being trained wrong, right? Like the pro
This is
coaches
the way you have to do it.
yeah, the trainers have they don't get to pick who your elementary school coach and your junior high and high school coaches are, and whatever things they might have wanted to teach you about football, right? They inherit all that. But with a basketball player, or any other athlete, rugby, and there's been some other ones too from around the world, even soccer. They just inherit talent, right? They inherit athleticism and nothing else, and then just have to build up. And of course, this doesn't, you can't do this across all positions. Like quarterback probably wouldn't happen, but if you're like a tight end or wide receiver or or defense where it's like just get the guy with the ball, right? Basically, there are fewer things to teach strategically, right? Just catch the ball and run this route, right? You can teach that to pretty much anybody, obviously, because they've had a couple of these guys who are just, and a lot of athletes in any sport are good at other sports as well.
Yeah,
but
they're innately athletic, right?
Yeah, but that particular thing caught my, triggered in my brain when you were talking about that story is that, they just having a blank slate and going in, and it's not, and there are other examples of it too, of, trying to teach someone who doesn't think they're good, they're an expert at this or something, right? Like trying to teach teachers is always a challenge, right? Because I'm a teacher, I know how to teach, and they are horrible students, and I can put myself into that category as, whereas people who, I don't know how to do this, you have a much easier time training them. So that kind of goes to that as well.
Right on.
Okay, so my last story, just in case you thought it was all glory and good news on the Facebook front, I did want to, in an effort to be fair and balanced here, my last story is about Facebook, but it's about how Facebook altered 689,000 users' news feeds for a psychology experiment. So, a while ago, researchers Facebook has a research group, right, or a research team. They decided, I guess, as a project, to begin for 689,003 users. I don't know where they got the 3 from, but they began removing emotionally negative posts for one group and removing emotionally positive posts for another group. And so when a person loaded their news feed, posts that contained emotional content, either positive or negative, had between a 10 and 90% chance of being omitted from their news feed for that specific viewing. The posts were still available by visiting a friend's timeline or reloading the news feed. And researchers also stated that they did not alter any direct messages sent between users, which they didn't say they couldn't. They said they didn't alter direct messages between users. And so the researchers point out, in case you're up in if I've sufficiently raised your hackles at this point, the researchers point out that this kind of data manipulation is written into Facebook's terms of use. When users sign up for Facebook, they agree that their information may be used, and here's where the quotes start, for internal operations, including troubleshooting, data analysis, testing, research, and service improvement. So when you check that little box saying I accept, way back when you signed up for Facebook, you agreed to all that.
They do remind you when there are setting changes. People just kind of.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, at least it doesn't say in this article, that they reminded or notified, and of course it would defeat the purpose of the test to begin with, right? That they were altering products like the news feed. It says it's unlikely that Facebook stepped outside the bounds of the terms of use. Okay, I don't really think that that's what this article is about, though, right? They can do this, right? Right?
Well, and they do. I mean, and they do it on a much larger scale than what people probably even this article does, right? Even thinks. I mean, now you can. They've been doing these tests, and that's probably it. I was probably on that list where it says, "Do you like this in your feed?" and and there's a little button that comes up and it says, do you like this type of story? Do you like this type of story? And it's just like this 5-question survey every, couple of
Yeah, but that's on
logins.
stories. That's on stories that you see in your newsfeed. So the
Right.
point of this article is they just took them out. Like you never saw them.
Oh.
So you would only see negative stories, right? Because if a positive story was posted by someone, it removed it, or vice versa, right?
Right.
So on any given day when you logged into Facebook, you would either only see, I guess, neutral or negative stories, or neutral and positive.
Maybe that's what brought me
stories.
down last week.
Yeah, see, there you go. Right now it's
No,
got you
it's
thinking.
true, like stuff like that. Keep it positive, people.
And it's just so I hope, well, if you didn't know, now you know, right, that Facebook can do this kind of stuff. And I don't know, there's a number of questions. They don't talk about, I'd like to see the results, frankly, or like why were they doing this, and share the results. I mean, frankly, that would be something to, I'm sure many people that fall into that 689,000 group would be upset about this, but at least if they knew why and then got to be able to like see what happened. Also, why 689,000 people? Like, you can do a study with as little as like 500 people, or these political polls and things are done with.
Yeah, more numbers are always better, and
Yeah.
the why is because they know more about the way people are going to react to things. I mean, they have the psychological down low on everybody. But yes, why keep it secret, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, if they had an opt-in thing where you say, "Hey, would you like to volunteer to be messed with by Facebook?" They would probably get more than 600,000 people that would click that yes button, right? Just to do it, right? Like, why not make it opt-in? So that's interesting. They probably never thought that the story was going to break, but that's kind of bad thinking on their parts. And yeah, anyway, so it's just interesting that Facebook, has with sort of I'll fall back on Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility, right? And especially these two stories put together. The last one I talked about with Facebook at work, and then this story. Like if my CEO saw this story about the altering news feeds, he would completely pass over the Facebook at work, right? Like.
Yep.
Cannot happen. We're a publicly traded company regulated by a number of agencies because we're a telecommunications company like the FCC and things like that, and corporate espionage. You just can't have it, right? You can't have, and so that's going to be a big hurdle for
that type of way that they do that sort of thing, and it's just like, why? It seems very juvenile to me, and it's an old enough company. Facebook has become an old enough company, and it's publicly traded, and so there are different things that I think the way their culture needs to kind of be driven in a certain direction, and just a little bit more transparency is never a bad thing, right?
Yeah, if you're going to do it, I'm like, that's my personal opinion.
People would be
I
all
don't
for
care
it,
that they
so,
did this.
yeah.
I don't, just let me know if I was a part of that group, and then I personally would like to see the results. But that's just who I am. So, all right, let's move into recommendations. Would you, Chandra, give?
My recommendation is actually Instagram, and Instagram for personal, because I love it more so. I don't think I've said this tool before, but more so for business. A lot of people don't realize how using Instagram can you can leverage it, right? I mean, like, great pictures. Some companies actually hire professional photographers. They go and find streams, and then they hire professional photographers to kind of get their brand going. Like there's a surf magazine, and they already have photographers on that are hired through them, so they use them in order to make basically their stream looks like a magazine. But the reason I am choosing is because a story just yesterday broke about an IKEA branch in Russia, and they only have 12 pictures on their Instagram feed, but on your phone it looks like a website, and
yeah, I saw this.
It looks really, really awesome. And I've actually thought of that before. There are times where I will do I don't like posting one after another. It's Instagram is a little bit different. Oh, actually, all social media, you should kind of feed in wherever you are. Instagram, do not post one picture after another, after another, after another, just because you're home and you're like, oh, going through your pictures and then posting. Give them some time. I don't know if there are any. Well, there's Hootsuite. You can use Instagram through Hootsuite, but I don't think you can post. I'll have to double check that. However, like 1 or 2 pictures a day, and even if you start it, and I think for our breakfast club, I'm just going to start a page and just have it be, our coffee mug, which is in the middle of our page here today, and have that be like the 12 pictures with how to get in touch with us, and I'll let you know how that turns out, if it gets any response or what have you, but be able to send people over there, and people can just see the feed. But in general, Instagram is a great way to get re-inspired if you're a photographer or really, really enjoy taking pictures, but you have a big DSLR, and sometimes that can get a little bit, you can be lacking in creativity. So you pick up your phone, and it will re-inspire things, as well as hashtagging. You're able to hashtag with like 20 hashtags, which I don't do. I only use about 3, but you can link it up to your Twitter, you can link it up to your Facebook, and take awesome pictures, and you can promote your business or product. I use Instagram for more of a personal level, but I know a bunch of people that I've gotten to know different people on a personal level through Instagram, even though it's for business, and it's just people can see that you're a real person, and this is your life, and they see your kids, and they want to see a story, and Instagram allows you to do that. So.
Cool. What else you got?
And then I have it's just a site, which going back to the old school site and tool, and it's Jill Levenhagen Photography, and I will be having a guest blog post on there this week, and it's about freelancing. And in case you don't know what freelancing is, I use it. We don't have a Mac lens for our DSLR, and basically you flip your lens around and you have an instant Mac lens. You can hold it in front of your camera and get these insane, awesome pictures. So I will be having a how-to on that website up this week.
And that's macro lens for those not in the know with the jargon.
Sorry.
The photogs and their
macro or a tilt shift, which
picture
is where
talky
where you get that blurry look, and you can tilt it. So freelancing is you can do a lot with it.
Cool.
I save a lot of money for my cheap husband. So because a tilt lens, they start at like $2,000. So just for the lens. All right.
Okay, so it's Monday, and if you've been listening to previous episodes, on Mondays I like to recommend a movie. So I definitely could have gone, the full Facebook theme, which, oh, by the way, Facebook owns Instagram. I don't think you mentioned that.
Oh,
But,
no, I didn't. No,
yeah, so that falls into it. We're real close.
This episode brought to you by
Facebook. But so if I were to do that, I would recommend The Social Network, which is basically, AKA the Facebook movie. It's a really good movie, really great soundtrack. You can debate on how true it is, but it's definitely worth your time. So it's on Netflix and everywhere else. It's been a couple years since that came out, right? But it's a good movie, and it's worth watching. But that's not going to be my recommendation. There's a new movie that just came out called The Internet's Own Boy, the story of Aaron Swartz. And this is the one you have, like, you can watch The Social Network or not, and you'll be fine with your life. But everybody should really watch this story. So I guess this falls into, I guess, documentary. It's about, it's a true story about Aaron Swartz, who was this basically, young phenom genius programmer who co-founded Reddit, which we've talked about before on the show, and really basically helped design RSS. So if you know anything about RSS feeds, and I mean, basically at a very young age, like 13 young, was designing the infrastructure of the internet, some like pertinent
The internet.
yeah, pertinent technologies and sites that are used every day now. And basically so while he was doing that, he was also an outspoken advocate for internet privacy, right? Or basically, more so, I guess, more than privacy, openness, right? And sharing information and things not being locked behind, closed doors and in big corporations. And so at one point, he basically downloaded like all of, I think it's MIT's, like a file store, like files that MIT had, documents, a document repository. He had access to it by virtue of like a membership or whatever, and then he downloaded all of them and made it all public. And they went after him, and they sicked the FBI on him, and they went after him and just like ruthlessly. I guess we're going to make an example of him, more or less. And we're pressuring him and saying he's going to, spend all this time in jail. And they had, all these court cases. And then so at one point he committed suicide. And so it's just, it's a multifaceted story. You get to learn about this young, like young genius, and especially in the technology world, how he came up and the things he did, and then about basically what the government, and it didn't, he wasn't, so you learn about how he was special, and then you learn about how he wasn't special, and that basically anybody, if the government or a corporation, because I'm classifying MIT as a corporation at this point. If an organization wants to come after you and can get the government to do so, then your world can go real bad real fast. And that isn't, then that part of the story isn't limited to just Aaron. So it just came out, so it's in select theaters, but they also, because it's sort of what Aaron wanted, they also put it out on like Amazon and iTunes, so you can rent or buy it. And I think I looked it up on Amazon. It's like $4.99. So it's $5 well spent in my mind, to take a look at it, either online or if you can go see it in the movie theaters. But that's my movie recommendation for today.
I haven't seen it, but I totally want to, and it's just it's heartbreaking that
it's not a feel
someone
good.
who
It's not going to be a good time.
He was
have
changing the world. He changed the world as we know it single-handedly, and he got destroyed because of greed. Plain and simple. So sad. Very sad.
Okay, and then I do want to end it on a lighter note, and so
I'm not crying here. Anytime I hear about him, it's just devastating.
So my last recommendation is an app, and it's called Crossfader. So that's CROSSFADER, and Crossfader.fm. So they had to throw a curveball. I was like, I was going to congratulate them for not doing FADR, right? And they put the E in there, which is nice these days. And all Crossfader does really is let you select 2 songs. This one is iPhone only. I know in the past I've mentioned that I have an Android phone. We have an iPad, but I've recommended a lot of Android apps or things that I've seen on Android. This one is iPhone only, but I have a feeling it's going to make its way over to Android here fairly soon. Basically, you select 2 songs, right, and it shows them on your phone, and then you can tilt the phone back and forth to mix the songs. So that's the crossfader, right? And that's it. That's
awesome.
That's all it does, but it's so cool. Abby, our daughter, we have a game called DJ Hero for the Xbox, and it's like got the turntable and everything, and she's really into it. And it's just fun. So it's a non-thinking app. It's not a big thing. Like after you've watched The Internet's Own Boy and you're feeling real bad, just get Crossfader, and you can just so that's it. I don't know what else to say. I've summed it up. Pick 2 songs. It's from a selection, so unfortunately right now it's not any song that you want or any song like that you have. They have little selections. but it matches up the tempos. I played a couple of them. They really sound pretty good. So it's doing some work behind the scenes to make the mixes sound a little bit better. But you can, if you full tilt over to one side, you'll just get like the vocals or whatever on one. You can kind of half tilt to bring them, and then you can just mix them back and forth. And then you can share your mixes. If you don't want to do the mixing yourself, you can listen to all the mixes that other people have done, and of course it has this whole social like rating them up, and the best ones kind of float to the top, and it's free, and kill some time if you're just sitting around. You can play with some music and pretend
Make
that
some music, and then afterwards send out, yo,
I did this. Well, no, you can't just yo, and then
yo.
have to know that you did that.
YO, which is short for no. That sounds like a great fun app, and just to do some fun stuff with.
Yep.
YO is my hometown. Oh,
That's how we wrap it up.
classy.
Yeah.
My hometown is YO. So, Yonkers, New York. Yeah, thanks for joining us today. We hope you got as much out of it as we did. I had a really good time, Kurt. Thanks. If you have any questions or statements or anything to say about this episode or any of our other episodes, come on over to ourbreakfast.club and leave a message. You can leave a video or a voicemail right on the site from your phone, as well as down below on any social media that you're seeing this, or on our website. We got a fly-in. And we got a video bomb by Atlas. So thanks again for joining us. We had a good time. The kids are waiting.
Enough of this podcasting business. Feed me. It's been a whole hour since he ate last. So,
Right.
All right, everybody, have a good day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks again. Aloha. Thank you for joining us today. If you agree, disagree, or just want to have your say about something you heard on today's episode, leave a comment below, tweet at Moxie Moguls, or visit us at ourbreakfast.club and leave a message.
And if you want to make sure you keep hearing from us, be sure to subscribe, like, and share the show with someone who might be interested. Thank you.
Have an awesome day.